My family's about to go bankrupt. We're in desperate need of an arranged marriage to save our sinking company. The potential match is with the Alexander family, who has a son in a vegetative state due to an accident. My dad held my hand with tears in his eyes and said, "Daughter, please, our family's fate depends on you." I squeezed his hand back. "No worries, Dad. Marrying me might just be his destiny's twist." Dad chuckled. "True that, haha. The Alexander family is on board. Our family's sinking fast," and when my dad, James, broke the news, I went blank. Reflecting on all my past antics, I can't help but wonder if my actions led to this mess. Before I could fully process the bad news, Dad grabbed my hand, tears streaming down his face. "Daughter, if we marry into the Alexander family, it might save our business. I'm begging you, help your old dad. Finding a job at my age is near impossible." Sob, sob, sob. I'm not against the idea, I'm actually glad it could save the company. But I wanted to play hard to get a bit. "Any other families in mind?" "We should weigh our options," I suggested. Dad hesitated. "Only the Alexanders are interested. You know your reputation isn't stellar." I laughed. "Fair enough. They say my sharp tongue's like a weapon, I'd get flagged at airport security. The Alexanders aren't masochists. Their son got into a car accident 6 months ago and became a vegetable. Let's be real, in normal circumstances, they wouldn't even consider us. It's just a stroke of luck for us." I made up my mind and squeezed Dad's hand. "Dad, I'm in. Marrying me could be their trial to bear." Dad chuckled again. "You could say that." The Alexanders acted quick, sending over gifts the very next day, antiquities, designer clothes and bags, fancy cars and watches, luxurious jewelry. I've seen my share of glam, but what the Alexanders gave was overwhelming. I felt a bit embarrassed by their generosity. Once the Alexanders left, I stared at the living room piled with gifts, lost in thought. Dad rubbed his hands together excitedly. "Well, daughter, did I pick a good one or what?" I shook with excitement. "Couldn't be better. Dad, with all this, even if I get booted, we won't starve." Dad scolded. "Don't say unlucky stuff like that." I joked, "If my veggie husband kicks the bucket, I'll be a young, pretty widow with cash to burn, hee hee. The Alexanders used some legal shortcuts to get us married while Alexander was still unconscious. I wasn't idle either, editing our wedding photos diligently. Alexander's stunning, and there's no way I'm letting him overshadow me. Upon arriving at their home, Alexander's parents, Tom and Winter, were clearly exhausted but very kind to me. Tom's all tough on the outside, but he's got a warm heart. The dowry he kept adding to was his doing, I've heard. Winter was soft-spoken and gentle. "Tina, it's tough on you marrying into our family, but we'll treat you like our own child." I quickly waved off her concern. "Not tough at all, we're the ones reaching high here." I was being honest. Given the Alexander's status, tons would jump at the chance to marry them. We're like lottery winners here. Seeing my compliance, Winter nodded in relief. "Alexander's upstairs, let me take you to him." Winter led me by the hand to a room on the second floor. The moment we stepped inside, the air reeked of antiseptic. Alexander lay there, wires hooked onto him, serene like a sleeping prince with chiseled features. Winter carefully wiped his face with a towel. "Ever since the accident, we've been worried. At least he's still here." The doctor nearby advised, "The caretakers exercise his muscles and clean him daily. Young mistress, if you have time, talk to him. Emotional stimulation might awaken him." I nodded firmly, trying to say something. Talking is my forte. Noticing Winter's watering eyes, I urged her to rest. Once she left, I took a closer look at Alexander lying there. Honestly, Alexander has always been the perfect child since we were kids. His abilities were intimidatingly outstanding. Initially, my dad would say, "Look at Alexander." Later, he'd only marvel at how exceptional Tina from Alexander's family was. The difference between an ordinary person and someone otherworldly. But seeing him now, surrounded by tubes, machines, and drugs, there was a touch of sadness. Even lying there, eyes closed, He exuded an untouchable noble aura. It kind of makes you want to defy it. After all, he's bedridden now. I grabbed the towel, gently cleaning Alexander's arms like the doctor instructed. The Alexanders kept him in great shape, his muscles didn't show any signs of atrophy. Turned out, he was all lean beneath his clothes, it was a workout to clean him. Taking so many benefits, doing nothing wouldn't sit right with me. I'm not drooling over his body, promise. While wiping his neck, nearly moving to his chest, Winter walked in with a tray of fruit. I hadn't pulled my hand away yet, our eyes met in awkward silence. Just as I was about to explain, Winter pulled me into a hug. "Oh, Tina, you're so kind to Alexander." I knew we chose right. With teary eyes, she slipped a gold-plated black card into my hand. "This is your spending money. If you ever feel tired, go out and shop. I'll leave you two alone now." Winter left briskly. I gazed at the warm black card in my hand, then at Alexander on the bed. I've decided to not only invite the fortune god but Alexander along when praying, too. He's my money bag. During dinner, Winter kept piling food onto my plate. Faced with a mountain of food, I didn't know where to begin. Tom kept telling me to eat more, saying I looked too skinny. To show my sincerity, I scarfed down 2 bowls of rice. The 2 elders were only satisfied once they saw my empty bowls. Oh, the weight of this love. The next day, Winter took me to a party. It was a gathering of wealthy middle-aged ladies from the community. They were all dressed to the nines. Just like our younger group, after a bit of small talk, someone started with the snarky comments. I thought I was the target, but the jabs were actually aimed at Winter. "Is Alexander still bedridden? You all pretend to be so above it all, so indifferent to fame and fortune, and look what happened. Your son's just lying there like a living corpse." Winter turned pale, wanting to argue back, but she couldn't handle the dozen comments flying at her. Those middle-aged women continued their relentless verbal assault. "And you let someone with such a reputation become your daughter-in-law? I heard she bullied my kid before. Really lacks manners. Anyway, with your son's looks, you couldn't have found someone from a good family." Winter was about to defend me, but I stopped her. Slowly, I stood up to meet their gazes head-on. "Did you just come from licking the toilet? Your words stink. Maybe you should get your brains in order before speaking to my mother-in-law." I added, with such sharp tongues, "How are you gonna live till tomorrow?" They were all stunned. Some tried to shame me. "Is that how you speak to elders? Rumors were right, you have no class." I put my finger to my lips in a shushing gesture. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. If you're being rude, blame your parents. Their faces turned pale, and they retreated without another word. Is that all the fight the older group has? What a bunch of pathetic people. No wonder they've spent years dishing out passive-aggressive remarks and forgot that young folks play it straight. I nonchalantly dusted off my skirt, sat back down, and offered Winter a piece of cake. "Mom, try this one. It's really good." Winter grabbed my hand, her eyes bright. "Tina, just call me Mom from now on. Can you teach me how to throw those sick burns?" That was awesome. I didn't expect to impress Winter like that. Now my top fan, Winter couldn't wait to tell Tom every detail, even the words I used. I felt a little uncomfortable, like when you first curse in front of your family and get caught. Instead of telling me to tone it down, Tom was thrilled and pranced around the house. Finally. Someone in the family who can actually talk back. He beamed at me. In our family, we're terrible with words. We just try to talk less. We'd rather say 1 word than 2, so when people babble, we only reply with glares. Winter agreed. Sometimes your dad gets up in the middle of the night saying how he should have clapped back. Tom nodded, still looking pitiful, but when it's time to use it, we can never remember. I got it. You guys can relax. Leave it to me next time. They even went to Alexander's room that night to tell the story again, but no awkwardness from me this time, just pride. After my reputation grew, Alexander's parents adored me even more. Tom gave me a black card, which surprised me. I took extra care of Alexander. After all, he was my meal ticket. Plus, I've been working out so much taking care of him that I now have abs. However, when it comes to words, I'm strong when faced with strong opponents. I thought talking to Alexander would be easy, but with no responses, I felt like I was talking to myself, going a little crazy. My ramblings aren't having the doctor's prescribed stimulating effect. I thought long and hard about what could really stimulate someone, and nothing beats my collection of romance novels. If this isn't enough to wake him, nothing will. Those books have me twisting and turning, all hyped up, needing to drink cold water to cool down. I wouldn't share these if it wasn't for Tom and Winter's generosity. So, my daily routine began, caring by day, reading on the edge by night. Once I was sure Tom and Winter were asleep, I'd read to Alexander. I'd get so worked up that I'd twist and turn right there. Little did I know, Alexander's fingers moved slightly one night. A maid reported to Tom and Winter that I was whispering and then screaming by Alexander's bedside. She suspected I was casting spells. But Tom and Winter trusted me. And so, 2 months passed. One day, just like every other, I was reading my favorite novel beside Alexander. When I reached an important part and twisted my body like a pretzel, I looked up into his bright eyes. They were sharp, menacing even, filled with danger. I thought I'd read too many romance novels and was hallucinating. But when I blinked hard, it wasn't an illusion. Alexander was awake. I dashed out to call Tom and Winter. They rushed in, tears of joy streaming down their faces. The doctor came to check Alexander, and I went to comfort Tom and Winter. Dad, Mom, this is wonderful news. So great. Winter held my hand, sobbing, Alexander's finally awake. I was so scared he'd never wake up and just leave us. Thanks to you, Tina. You cared for him so well, and now he finally woke up after you cared for him for only 2 months. You're our family's good luck charm. Tom nodded along, making me a bit shy. Mom and Dad, I just did a little bit, but it was mostly your care for Alexander that helped him wake up. It wasn't until the doctor finished the checkup that our back and forth of giving each other credit got interrupted. The doctor excitedly explained, the young master's bodily functions look perfectly normal at the moment. He might still be a bit weak now. After a couple of days, when he's slightly better, he can visit the hospital for a thorough checkup. We thanked the doctor quickly. After seeing the doctor off, we all gathered around Alexander's bed. Alexander's voice was still a bit hoarse, and it was a bit hard for him to speak. But he still managed to reassure his parents. Once they saw Alexander was really okay, they left the room for the two of us. The atmosphere was a bit awkward. My face is too thick for this, but I was just about to explain the idea of our families merging in marriage to Alexander. Just as I began to outline the idea, Alexander slowly said, "Stop reading those kinds of novels." I was stunned right there, turning around and dashing back to my room in embarrassment. I wanted to die from the shame. Turns out, I'm not as shameless as I thought. The thing is, the doctor only mentioned stimulation, not that Alexander would remember. The next day, I was still stuck in awkwardness. Not knowing how to face Alexander, I just stayed in my room, playing dead. Then, a servant told me my dad was here. He had rushed over upon hearing the news that Alexander woke up. I hurried downstairs, and there sat Tom, Winter, and my dad chatting on the couch. I was so excited to see Dad, I flung myself straight into his arms. My dad, acting every bit the older generation, said, "You're married now, how are you still lazing around in bed?" I giggled without explaining, mainly because the scene was too complicated to get into. Winter helped me out. Tina's been working hard recently. Alexander's recovery is much thanks to Tina's care. Dad looked at me with pride, but caught my blinking signal that I needed to talk to him privately. After chatting a bit longer, they let me take Dad for a walk around the villa's garden. Outside, when I was sure no one was around, I quickly told Dad, "Dad, I might get kicked out." Dad was shocked. How could that be? They all seem to like you. I painfully recapped the situation to Dad. He listened, losing the light in his eyes like he'd been drained of soul. Trying to comfort him, I said, "No worries, Dad. They can't take it all back, right? We're not losing." Dad was close to tears. "No, honey, I just signed a contract with them for investment. If you get kicked out, our family will be back to square one overnight." After a moment of thought, Dad advised, "Sweetheart, hold on for 2 more months. In 2 months, our other project's funds will be released, and then we can pull back the investment and still stay afloat." I frowned. That might be hard. Yesterday, Alexander was too weak, or else he might have already thrown me out. Dad sobbed, "Honey, just endure it, no matter what it takes. 2 months, just 2 months." I can't stand seeing Dad like this. Ever since Mom passed early, Dad has raised me on his own. All those years juggling work and home by himself. He was so afraid of me getting hurt that he never even dated, let alone remarried. Because of him, I became who I am today. I grit my teeth and agreed. "All right, Dad. Don't worry, I promise to keep our family from going under." Dad praised me over and over for being upstanding, his daughter through and through. Just 2 months? I can definitely hold on. I thought it over for a night and decided to take the safest route. Become a doormat. No one hits a smiling face, and trading a bit of pride isn't too bad. Alexander's body is pretty much back to normal now. He's at least entirely mobile. Tom and Winter, seeing how well Alexander was, packed up and left overnight to deal with a previously postponed overseas business. I gave the help the day off, so it was just the 2 of us at home, making it easier for me to go full doormat. At 6 in the morning, I brought takeout breakfast and knocked on Alexander's door. Alexander, still groggy, looked at me, annoyed. "Tina, you came so early, are you here to sleep?" I blushed, smiling tenderly and with shyness. That was the ultimate goal. "But for now, as your wife, I want your first sight after waking to be me." Alexander looked at me like I was an idiot. But he finished all the food anyway. I went over eagerly and, in a cute voice, shook his arm. "Hubby, what do you want for lunch?" "I'll make it for you." Alexander looked at me with exasperation. "Anything." I started prepping early, practically wielding the spatula like a weapon. When Alexander came out, he saw a table full of dishes. He didn't say anything, but you could tell he was quite pleased. But he was happy way too soon. As he sat down and took a bite, he couldn't hide the unspeakable expression on his face. "Has anyone ever told you you're really good at cooking?" he asked. I shook my head shyly. "No, why?" He replied, "Then why are you cooking?" "They've toughened me." I called back the aunties. It's best to leave professional work to the professionals. In the afternoon, I accompanied Alexander to the hospital for a full checkup. I bustled around the hospital, running back and forth between departments, half-heartedly pretending to help with reports and blood samples. Mainly just putting on a show of being busy. Alexander watched dubiously as I fumbled around. When the results came, the doctor said, "His bodily functions have almost completely recovered. Congratulations." Then, the doctor looked at me with a friendly smile. "Congratulations to you too, ma'am. Seeing your worry, we understand. Don't worry." Then, trying to be discreet, he told me, "We checked everything, all normal." I paused for a couple of seconds before realizing they thought I was nervous because I was worried Alexander couldn't do it. I hurriedly explained, "That's not it. Don't make stuff up." The doctor simply smiled without saying anything, and Alexander looked at me as if he was wary I might lose control at any moment. I mean, who doesn't act a little crazy sometimes, right? During this time, I played the role of a devoted companion so perfectly. Without fail, I would wait for Alexander every morning so we could have breakfast together. I'd flash a big smile and flatter him a bit by saying, "Good morning, babe." He would just give me a fleeting glance. At night, right before he went to sleep, I'd say, "Good night, today was yet another day loving my husband." Alexander's expression would remain unreadable, and I feared he might bring up divorce at any moment. In the days that followed, he enjoyed my care, like a royal prince. We maintained this routine for about a month. One morning, when I was feeling particularly groggy from the early wake-ups, I accidentally called Alexander Security instead of his name. Alexander raised an eyebrow, and it seemed like he smiled a bit. Then, he asked, rather cheerfully, "I want some dumplings." He was doing it on purpose. He knew I couldn't cook. As I served him a bowl of meatball soup with dumplings, Alexander twitched his eyelid but decided we should eat it together. We just stared at each other across the table until I finally conceded and ate it myself. He didn't have a single bite. He's getting back at me for reading all those novels to him. Thank goodness Tom and Winter finally came back from their business trip today. I was so emotional, it was like the war was over and I just found my comrades. Family. You're finally back. The two of them were so happy to see me, so excited, and they brought gifts for both Alexander and me. I saw the expensive necklace and forgave Alexander for 5 whole minutes. A few days later, we were setting up for a celebration to mark Alexander's recovery. One was to let everyone know Alexander was fully recovered, and the second was to announce our marriage. Everyone in our circle knew about the union of our two families, but our marriage announcement wasn't officially out yet. I was genuinely thrilled because, with the announcement, Alexander wouldn't be able to divorce me for a while out of consideration for everyone's interests. I could finally stop playing the role of a fawning partner. As night fell and the lights came on, the banquet hall filled with socialites. As Alexander's partner, I held onto his arm, my bright red evening gown drawing lots of attention. It was a joyous occasion, all about celebrating. Once the host announced our big news, everyone looked at me, either sincerely or with jealousy. Well, I can't help it, I've always been lucky. Alexander stood beside me, his lips curled into a small, charming smile. After we stepped off the stage, everyone crowded around, congratulating us, and we responded to each one. Seeing someone approach Alexander about business, I politely mentioned needing a break. Alexander glanced at the dining table and nodded, saying he'd join me soon. I browsed the snacks for a while and picked a mousse cake, but just as I reached for it, another hand beat me to it. I looked up, and as it turned out, it was someone I knew. I couldn't help but roll my eyes, silently cursing my luck. Cindy stiffened, but forced a smile. "Congratulations, Tina, you're so lucky to marry Alexander." Without even glancing at her, I replied, "I am lucky, no need to be too envious." Cindy snapped, "What makes you so smug? If it weren't for their help, your family would be bankrupt by now." I ignored her and continued eating my pudding. She suddenly changed her tune with tears at the ready. "Sis, I was just joking, why would you be so mean?" Her voice was soft and pitiful. I said nonchalantly, "Sweetie, your joke is funnier than your looks." Cindy's face twisted in anger, and she stepped forward. "Tina, you." Behind me came a slight chuckle. Alexander had appeared without me noticing. Cindy started the tears. "Brother, did you see her bullying me?" Alexander ignored her and looked at me instead. "I always heard you had a sharp tongue, first time witnessing it." I shrugged, I couldn't before. Unfazed, Cindy tried to claw back attention. "Brother, when you were going through that trouble, if I had been in the country, it would have never been her." Her bejeweled nails nearly poked my face. Alexander finally acknowledged her presence. "We don't just let anyone into our family." Cindy lost all composure, her face ashen, and she couldn't handle Alexander's coldness anymore. She ran off in tears. I felt a touch playful. "One of your fans?" Alexander replied matter-of-factly, "Not sure, I hardly know her." Gosh, I'd usually feel sorry for someone like her. But with Cindy, it just felt deserved. Her dad and my dad were rivals, and she and I had been in conflict for years. In recent years, though, our sides have drifted apart. Her family's ruthless ways of doing business, not leaving any room for competitors, have quickly brought them into the second tier. My dad, on the other hand, opts for collaborations and steady growth, so we're still third tier. Of course, Families like Alexander's that are well established remain at the top. Our family ran into trouble because someone sabotaged our partnership, tampering with product quality. The partner got caught, and we nearly went bankrupt. Seeing my expression darken, Alexander coughed and suddenly said, "Thanks for speaking up for my mom that time." I blinked, confused at the sudden topic shift. I noticed some ladies I might have insulted in the past were huddled in a corner avoiding eye contact. I waved it off. It was nothing, those scoldings were just added bonuses. Alexander laughed softly. "You don't have to act so humble around me." I was shocked. "How did you find out?" Alexander sighed. "Do you think I'm blind?" I got more furious. "Why didn't you say something sooner?" Alexander laughed as if he was enjoying the spring breeze. "Because you forced me to listen to those novels." I immediately felt deflated and quickly groveled for mercy. "Boss, please spare me." "Boss, the lady admits her mistake." Alexander awkwardly covered my mouth. "Stop being so abstract." "Humph, I'm not going to be the only one feeling awkward." I bet Alexander's toes were curling too. After the party, I felt that my revolutionary friendship with Alexander had taken a big leap forward. So I thought I'd just be honest. Mainly because I was so anxious every day that I couldn't sleep well. I knocked on Alexander's door. He was lazily drying his hair with a towel. Looking down, I could see his loose black pants hanging on his sexy, fair waist, revealing the edge of his lower abs. He looked surprised when he saw it was me and let me in. He turned his back and quickly put on his pajamas, but from this distance, I could still sense the moisture emanating from him. It made me feel a little flustered. Once he was dressed, he sat down, waiting for me to speak. In this atmosphere, I decided to get straight to the point. "My dad and I are very grateful for helping my family. Even when you were sick, my family appreciated it. Now that you're better, I know you're planning to divorce, but could you wait one more month? A divorce now wouldn't be good for both of our families," and I asked my dad. "In a month, your family can withdraw its investment. We'll reimburse the interest when the company improves." After blurting out my thoughts, I waited for Alexander's verdict. Silence, oppressive silence. What's with this guy? Doesn't he know the axe isn't scary, the waiting is? I sneaked a glance at Alexander. He looked intimidatingly gloomy. I thought, I'm doomed. He's definitely kicking me out now. My chest felt like a bundle of cotton was stuck in it, making it hard to breathe. I decided not to wait for him to say it and maintain some dignity. "I get it. I'll pack up and leave now." As I was getting up, Alexander grabbed my wrist. He pulled me close beside him, and I looked at him, stunned. "Who said anything about divorce? Are you planning to use and throw away?" Alexander gritted his teeth. Huh? I was confused. Alexander tightened his grip on my hand. "I never planned on divorcing. Actually, over this time, I've found that you're pretty good," Alexander said with a serious face, but I noticed his ears were a bit red. I hesitantly asked, "Is it because I've been fawning over you this past month?" Hearing that, Alexander's face darkened. "Do I look like I'm short on admirers?" True, but this news was too sudden, and I was having trouble processing it. So I played dumb. "I feel like I'm doing great, my alter ego's about to come out, so I'm outta here." I turned around and ran back to my room. Leaning my forehead on the door, I felt my chest, realizing the cotton had turned into butterflies. After Alexander showed interest, I shamefully hid. Didn't hide for a whole day. Only avoided Alexander for one day before he cornered me at home. It was already 11 p.m. when I got home after playing card games at the internet cafe all day. I wanted to calm my mood. But the more I played, the more I got hooked and even added $50. Walking into my house and seeing Alexander on the couch almost scared me to death. "Why are you still up so late?" "You're not asleep, but I sure will." Haha. I tried to laugh it off and head back to my room. But Alexander came over, literally scooped me up, and carried me to the bedroom. Alexander gently placed me on the bed, but his eyes were fierce. "You've been avoiding me?" I was shocked. How is this different from those CEO novels? Aren't I supposed to run while you chase me for at least 100 chapters, even if we're in the same house? Alexander laughed at my reaction, because I have a mouth. He knelt in front of me seriously. Don't avoid me. If you don't like me, I'll let you go. But I think you should get to know me a little better first. I shyly admitted, it's not that I don't like you. I've just never dated before, so I don't know what to do. Alexander's eyes gleamed with humor. What a coincidence, neither have I. We can learn together. He stood up and gently hugged me. Tina, don't avoid me. It'll make me sad. The heat on my face and my uncontrollable heartbeat made me feel like a steamed crab. After a while, he let go, and I could see Alexander was blushing too. We stared at each other's red faces and laughed foolishly. Suddenly, Alexander's face got closer, and amidst the mingling breaths, he asked, "Can I kiss you?" I quickly pecked him on the lips, barely touching. But Alexander leaned in and deepened the kiss. Back in my room, I couldn't stop replaying it in my head, rolling around the bed. For some reason, Jack's line popped up, "Your mouth isn't dead, you're good at kissing, how scary." Made myself laugh out loud. My husband and I started dating. Literally. Even though neither of us had dated before, we both did our homework. I crammed 200 CEO novels about falling in love after marriage. He crammed the romance books I read to him. I wanted to create drama about the runaway CEO's wife, but never got the chance. Every time I picked a fight, he'd kiss me until I was defenseless. Being a fast learner isn't always a good thing. Besides dating, we didn't forget the important stuff. My dad and I kept looking for evidence of Cindy's unfair competition, while Alexander investigated the truth behind his traffic accident. We both had our sights set on one man, Cindy's father. After submitting the evidence to the police, Cindy's father got arrested according to the law. After the police interrogation, we found out that the rival family wasn't satisfied with just illegally taking over small companies anymore. They first planned to get Cindy to marry into the Alexander family and then gradually take over. But Alexander never paid Cindy any mind. After some discussions, they made a bold decision. They wanted to stage a car accident to kill Alexander. The idea was to strike while the company was unstable and then rip it apart. But their plan failed because Alexander survived and ended up marrying into my family. Once I learned the truth, I thought, if not for their crazy schemes, Alexander and I might never have ended up together. I guess you could say what goes around comes around. Alexander sticks to me like glue every day and even wanted to cosplay characters from the novel I'm reading. I straight up rejected him. Twice. The third time, he gently suggested cosplaying that magical story. It's about a strong, dominant heroine. Who could resist that? What choice did I have? I agreed to it, caught up in his intense gaze. In the end, we both fulfilled each other's wishes. Later, I asked Alexander why he liked me. He looked at me with those gentle eyes and said, "Because you're genuine and real, which are rare and precious qualities. Plus, when you sass someone, your eyes sparkle with mischief. Just seeing that makes me happy. Turns out, someone who loves you will love everything about you. So, embrace who you are now because someone will love you just as you are. Our future is shining bright."